The awakening of a sharper mind. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a mind that feels sharper, calmer, and more capable than ever before. Not because you were born a genius, but because you've trained your mind step by step to think better, to see deeper, and to understand faster. Becoming smarter isn't a gift of birth, it's a decision. It's not about IQ scores, academic degrees, or who knows the most facts. It's about how you live your days, how you think, and how you choose to grow. Every day, we're either feeding our intelligence or starving it. The difference lies in the habits we practice. This audiobook isn't about memorization or theory, it's about transformation. 10 habits, simple, powerful, and proven, that will reshape the way you think, learn, and create. So take a deep breath, because today we begin a journey, not just to know more, but to become more. This is how you become smarter every single day. Chapter 1. The habit of curiosity. The first sign of a sharp mind. Have you ever watched a child stare at the world, the way their eyes widen when they see a butterfly land on a flower, the way they ask question after question? Why is the sky blue? Where does the sun go at night? How does the rain know when to fall? There's no fear of sounding foolish, no hesitation, no pride, only pure wonder. And somewhere along the way, as we grow older, that wonder begins to fade. We trade our curiosity for certainty. We stop asking questions because we think we already know the answers. But the truth is, the moment we stop asking why, our minds begin to slow down. We stop expanding. We stop evolving. Curiosity is the spark of intelligence. It's the seed from which every breakthrough, every invention, every leap of wisdom has ever grown. From the wheel to the stars, everything humanity has ever achieved started with one simple question: what if? Think about it. The smartest people in the world aren't always the ones who know the most. They're the ones who want to know the most. They're hungry for understanding. They live as lifelong students, constantly exploring, questioning, and connecting dots. Others never even notice. To become smarter every day, you must learn to awaken your curiosity again. You must remember what it feels like to look at the world through new eyes. Curiosity is not just about information, it's about engagement with life itself. It's about noticing the patterns around you, seeing meaning in small things, and wondering how it all fits together. When you're curious, boredom disappears, the world becomes your teacher, and every moment becomes a lesson waiting to be discovered. A curious mind never walks through a day blindly. It listens to conversations differently. It pays attention to the tone behind the words, the stories behind the faces, the lessons behind the problem. You can spot a curious person by the way they look at you, fully present, interested, absorbing every word. They're not waiting to reply. They're exploring what you're saying. They're not pretending to know. They're hungry to understand, and that hunger keeps their mind young. Maybe you've noticed that some people grow older, but never grow dull. They still light up when they learn something new. They still ask questions about everything. They still chase answers, not because they have to, but because they love to. That is the mark of a sharp, alive mind. Curiosity is not a luxury, it's mental nutrition. When you stop feeding your curiosity, your thoughts grow weak and repetitive. You fall into patterns, you stop growing. But when you start feeding it again, when you read, when you ask, when you observe, your brain lights up. You reconnect to that deep, electric energy of discovery. It's the same energy that makes an artist paint, an engineer invent, a scientist explore, a philosopher question, and a dreamer imagine something no one else can see. You don't have to do anything dramatic to reignite your curiosity. You just have to notice. When you walk outside, really look at the sky. When you talk to someone, really listen. When something breaks, ask why it failed instead of just getting angry. The curious mind turns ordinary days into extraordinary lessons. It sees possibilities where others see problems. It sees patterns where others see chaos. Curiosity turns life into a living classroom. Every person becomes a teacher. Every mistake becomes an experiment. Every challenge becomes an invitation to think deeper. That's how smart people live, not because they know everything, but because they're always learning something. Curiosity also has a quiet courage to it, because asking questions means admitting you don't know. And that's not easy in a world obsessed with pretending to be right. But here's a truth most people miss. Pretending to know is how you stay small. Admitting you don't know is how you grow. Smart people don't fear confusion. They explore it. They don't run from uncertainty. They dig into it. They understand that confusion is not failure. It's the birthplace of clarity. So let yourself be the one who asks. Let yourself be the one who wonders, even when others roll their eyes. Let yourself be the one who follows curiosity instead of convenience. Because every why you ask opens a new door, and behind one of those doors might be the idea, the insight, or the change that transforms your life forever. Curiosity also requires patience. It doesn't give instant answers. It's a slow process, one that unfolds in layers. Sometimes you'll ask questions and find no answers at all, but even that silence teaches you something, that some mysteries are meant to be lived, not solved. And yet every question you ask, even the unanswered ones, stretches your thinking. It teaches your brain to stay flexible, open, and alive. That's how you grow your intelligence, not by knowing more facts, but by thinking in wider ways. When your mind becomes open, ideas begin to flow to you effortlessly. You start connecting things that once felt unrelated. You see solutions faster, you feel more creative, and you realize that intelligence isn't a fixed state. It's a living rhythm that grows with your curiosity. Think about this for a moment. Everything you admire in others, wisdom, creativity, confidence, comes from curiosity. The wise are curious about meaning. The creative are curious about possibility. The confident are curious about themselves and the limits they can push beyond. So, if you want to become smarter every day, start by asking better questions. Not shallow ones like how can I get more, but deeper ones like why does this matter? What can I learn from this? How can I think differently about this? These are the questions that stretch your intelligence. They sharpen your perception. They turn daily life into a mental gym, where your thoughts become stronger with each repetition. Curiosity is also contagious. When you live with genuine interest, you inspire others to think deeper too. Your energy makes people want to share, to discuss, to create. You begin to attract conversations that matter and relationships that elevate your mind. And soon curiosity becomes a way of life. You stop living on autopilot. You stop scrolling through days. You begin engaging with people, ideas, and the world around you. That engagement is what keeps your mind alive, alert, and endlessly growing. So here's your challenge, starting today. Question everything. Not to doubt life, but to understand it. Ask yourself why you believe what you believe. Ask how things work. Ask what drives people, what drives you, what makes the world move the way it does. Every question you ask becomes a seed of intelligence, and as you plant more of them, your mind becomes a garden of insight, awareness, and wisdom. That's how smart people live, not because they were born with answers, but because they never stopped asking better questions. Curiosity is the first step on this journey. It's the habit that opens every other door we'll explore together. Because once you begin to ask, your world begins to expand, and from that expansion, intelligence grows, quietly, steadily, beautifully. In the next chapter, we'll take this journey deeper. We'll talk about the fuel that keeps curiosity alive, what you feed your mind every day. Because curiosity without nourishment fades, but when you give it the right diet, your mind becomes unstoppable. So take a breath, let your curiosity awaken again, because this is just the beginning of how you become smarter, one day at a time. Chapter 2: The Habit of Reading. Nourish your mind daily. Imagine walking into a vast, silent hall. Towering shelves stretch endlessly in every direction, filled with the thoughts, dreams and discoveries of every human who ever lived. Every book, a doorway, every page, a portal, every sentence, a spark from another mind reaching out to touch yours. Now imagine that this hall doesn't just exist in some faraway library. It lives inside you. It grows each time you open a book. Each time you read, you step into another person's mind and walk around in their world. And that is how intelligence expands, not through random moments of luck or inspiration, but through deliberate nourishment of the mind. Reading is food for thought. Without it, your mind starves quietly. With it, you become powerful beyond measure. Smart people know this secret. They don't just read to pass time, they read to transform time. They use reading as a tool to stretch their minds, to connect the dots between what they know and what they don't. They read not for entertainment alone, but for evolution, because every word you absorb reshapes how you think. Every idea you encounter stretches your mental muscles. Every perspective you understand makes your own more complete. Reading is not a hobby. It's an act of mental self-care. It's how you feed your brain with the fuel it needs to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Think about this. Every book you've ever loved, fiction or non-fiction, story or study, was written by someone who spent years distilling their best thoughts, lessons, and experiences into words. When you read, you gain access to decades of wisdom in just hours. You inherit a lifetime of learning without living every mistake yourself. That is an incredible advantage. Reading is the bridge between who you are and who you could be. It's the most accessible form of mentorship in existence. You don't need money or connections to grow your mind. You just need curiosity and a page. Every time you pick up a book, you are sitting across from a great mind. The author becomes your silent teacher, whispering ideas that might change how you see the world forever. But let's be honest, in today's world, reading has become rare. We scroll endlessly. We chase fragments of information instead of depth. We confuse quick facts with real understanding. Scrolling gives you fragments of thought. Reading gives you frameworks of thought. The difference: fragments fade, frameworks build. When you read deeply, your mind begins to organize ideas into structure. You don't just know things, you understand how they connect, why they matter, and when to use them. That's what true intelligence is, the ability to see connections where others see chaos. And reading gives you the raw material for that kind of thinking. Smart people treat reading like training. They don't wait for the mood to strike. They schedule it. They make space for it, just as they would for exercise, work, or rest. Because reading isn't just about input, it's about alignment. The more you read, the more you begin to think clearly. The noise of the world softens, and your inner voice grows louder. Even 10 pages a day, 10 quiet minutes of feeding your mind, can shift the direction of your life. It's not about how fast you finish a book, it's about how deeply that book finishes you. Choose what you feed your mind with the same care you'd choose what you feed your body. Read books that challenge you, books that make you pause, reread and reflect, books that leave you slightly uncomfortable because they stretch what you believe. Growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from curiosity and confrontation. When you read something that challenges your assumptions, don't reject it. Explore it. Ask yourself, why does this make me uncomfortable? What can I learn from this discomfort? That's how you grow smarter. Not by defending what you know, but by expanding what you're willing to understand. Reading also connects you to something timeless. It humbles you. It reminds you that human wisdom has been built, layer by layer, generation after generation. When you read, you realize you're not the first to struggle, to dream, or to question. You're part of a continuum of thinkers who have all searched for meaning before you. It's a sacred exchange, your time for their insight, your attention for their experience. And when you finish a book, You carry a piece of that author within you forever. That's the magic of reading. It changes your inner chemistry. You think differently, speak differently, and even see differently. Because once your mind expands through a new idea, it can never fully shrink back to what it was. There's also something spiritual about reading. It slows you down. It draws you into the present moment in a way that scrolling or talking cannot. It forces you to listen, to truly absorb. Reading teaches patience. It teaches stillness. It teaches focus. And in a world that celebrates speed and noise, those qualities have become rare forms of intelligence. The smartest minds are not the loudest. They're the most attentive. They can sit still long enough to read, think, and connect. They can process before reacting. They can learn before judging. That level of calm focus is born in the quiet act of reading. But let's take it further. The real power of reading isn't just in the words. It's in what you do with them. Don't just consume information. Engage with it. After you read something meaningful, pause, reflect. Ask yourself, what does this mean for me? How can I apply this today? Books are not meant to decorate shelves. They're meant to decorate minds. So write notes, highlight insights, start conversations, let the ideas live through you. Because when knowledge turns into action, intelligence turns into transformation. And here's a small secret the smartest readers know. You don't need to read everything. You just need to read consistently. Even if you read one great book a month, that's 12 minds guiding you every year. 12 mentors you didn't have before. 12 new ways of thinking expanding your own. Over time, that consistency compounds. It changes your vocabulary, your creativity, your confidence. It rewires how you approach life itself. So don't chase speed, chase depth. Because deep reading builds deep thinking. And deep thinking builds a powerful mind. That wisdom is infinite, that no matter where you are in life, there's always another page waiting to teach you something new. Every time you open a book, you're saying yes to learning, to expanding, to evolving. That simple yes builds the foundation for every intelligent habit that follows. So feed your mind daily. Let words be your nutrition and ideas your exercise. Read for understanding, not appearance. Read for growth, not speed. Read because it's the most intimate conversation you can have with the greatest minds who ever lived. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when your curiosity and knowledge begin to meet your surrounding. When reading turns into seeing, and you start noticing what most people overlook. Because the smarter you become, the more you realize that intelligence isn't only in what you know, it's in what you notice. So take a moment, look at your bookshelf, or open the app on your phone. Choose something, anything, that pulls you toward growth. And remember, every page you turn is another step toward a sharper, stronger, more powerful mind. Chapter 3. Feed your curiosity. The habit of lifelong learning. Curiosity is the heartbeat of intelligence. It's the quiet whisper that says, "What if?" It's the spark that turns ordinary minds into extraordinary thinkers. Every great discovery, every breakthrough, every masterpiece ever created began with someone who dared to ask questions no one else thought to ask. Think about it. The smartest people you've ever met aren't those who know everything. They're the ones who never stop learning. They live in a constant state of wonder, as if the world is a vast ocean of mystery and they've only just begun to explore. And here's the truth. You can become that kind of person. You can train your mind to see the world not as a collection of finished facts, but as an unfolding story, one that you're meant to read, explore, and write your own chapters in. Let's begin with a simple but powerful realization. Your mind grows through curiosity, not through routine. When you stop asking questions, your growth stops too. The moment you start assuming you already know enough, your potential begins to fade. That's why the smartest people never lose their sense of wonder. They protect it, nurture it, and feed it daily. So ask yourself this: when was the last time you learned something new? Just for the joy of learning it, Not because it was required, not because someone told you to, but because it made you feel alive, because it expanded your mind and opened a new door inside you. That's where intelligence begins. In curiosity, in the thrill of discovery, in the simple, powerful act of saying, "Teach me more." There's a story I love about a man who once sat down beside a stream and began picking up smooth stones. He turned each one over in his hand, wondering how the current had shaped it, how long it had been there, what stories it could tell. To most people they were just stones. But to him they were lessons, in patience, in time, in transformation. That man wasn't just seeing with his eyes, he was thinking with his heart. That's what curiosity does. It makes the ordinary extraordinary. If you want to become smarter every day, you must keep your curiosity alive, even in the smallest moments. Ask questions like a scientist, listen like a philosopher, and observe like an artist. When you read a book, don't just finish it, question it. When you meet someone new, don't just talk, listen deeply. Every person you meet, every experience you have, every mistake you make, holds a piece of wisdom you can learn from. The difference between a curious mind and a passive one is simple. The curious mind sees learning as a choice, not a chore. It doesn't wait for opportunities, it creates them. It doesn't fear not knowing, it embraces the challenge of finding out. So how do you feed your curiosity in a world that constantly distracts you? By turning learning into a daily ritual. Read for 15 minutes before bed. Watch documentaries that expand your thinking. Listen to people whose perspectives challenge your own. Take a walk and notice the details you've ignored 1,000 times before. The shape of the clouds, the rhythm of footsteps, the colors of sunset. Curiosity isn't just about learning facts. It's about being present. It's about noticing the invisible and finding meaning in the moments most people overlook. The more curious you are, the more your brain stays alive, alert and adaptable. You begin to see patterns others miss. You make connections that open new doors, and slowly, without even realizing it, you become wiser, not because you've memorized more, but because you've learned to see differently. Let me tell you something powerful. The smartest people aren't born knowing the answers. They're simply willing to keep searching for them. They fail, they explore, they experiment, and they grow. They understand that intelligence is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. There's a light that shines in every truly intelligent person. It's not the light of perfection, it's the glow of curiosity, that inner fire that says, "I don't know everything, but I'm excited to learn," and that fire never fades as long as you keep feeding it. So if you ever find yourself bored or stuck, that's your cue. That's life whispering, "Wake up, there's more to see." Pick up a new book, try a new skill, ask a new question. Let curiosity pull you out of the routine and into discovery. Because the truth is, every single day offers you a chance to become smarter. You just have to be willing to look deeper, think longer, and care more. Every sunrise brings a lesson. Every person carries a story. Every challenge hides a truth, waiting to be understood. If you want your mind to grow, stop chasing certainty and start chasing curiosity. Be willing to say, "I don't know." Be brave enough to admit, "I want to learn." That's where all wisdom begins. Remember this. Curiosity is the bridge between who you are today and who you have the potential to become tomorrow. Feed it, and your world will expand in ways you can't yet imagine. So let this be your invitation to wonder more, to question deeper, to never stop learning. Because the smartest people aren't defined by what they know, they're defined by their endless hunger to keep discovering. And as we step into the next chapter, we'll explore another essential habit of truly intelligent people, the one that turns knowledge into mastery. It's not about what you learn, but how you use it. And once you understand that, everything in your life begins to change. Let's turn the page and go deep. Chapter 4. The Power of Observation. Seeing what others overlook. Pause for a moment and imagine this. You're standing at a busy street corner. People rush past you, Cars blur into motion, conversations echo and fade. It's chaos, movement everywhere. But then you stop, you breathe, you notice the woman balancing a coffee cup while reading a message, the old man feeding pigeons in silence, the child pointing at the sky, smiling at something no one else sees. That moment, that shift from looking to seeing, is where intelligence begins to deepen, because smart people don't just move through life, they observe it. Observation is more than watching, it's understanding. It's the quiet skill of paying attention to the details most people ignore. It's reading the world like a living book, where every gesture, tone and silence carries meaning. The smartest minds, scientists, artists, leaders, thinkers, all share this one secret. They see more because they pay attention to what others miss. Let's be honest, most people move through life half awake. They're distracted, hurried, lost in screens and schedules. They miss the beauty, the lessons, the patterns right in front of them. But those who slow down enough to truly see, they unlock understanding others only dream of. Think about Leonardo da Vinci. He didn't just paint, he studied shadows, light, anatomy, motion, water, flight. He saw connections everywhere, and those observations fueled genius. The same principle applies to you and me. When you train your mind to observe deeply, you start noticing the invisible threads that connect everything. And that awareness, that heightened attention, is the root of wisdom. Observation sharpens intuition. It refines judgment. It builds emotional intelligence. It helps you see beyond words, to sense what's truly happening in people, in situations, even in yourself. Let's bring it closer to daily life. When you're in a conversation, do you really listen, or are you waiting for your turn to speak? When someone smiles, do you notice if that smile reaches their eyes? When you walk into a room, do you feel its energy, the tone, the rhythm, the subtle emotions moving through it? These small observations tell stories the surface can't reveal. They help you navigate the world with clarity, empathy, and precision. And when you learn to interpret those stories, to read between the lines, your intelligence expands far beyond information. It becomes perception. Observation is also a mirror. It teaches you to understand yourself. When you begin to notice your own reactions, your own habits, your own thoughts, you start to gain control over them. You begin to see patterns in your emotions, your choices, your triggers, and once you see them, you can change them. That's how smart people grow, not by avoiding their flaws, but by observing them without judgment. Awareness is the first step toward transformation. Let's talk about silence for a moment, because observation and silence are powerful partners. When you stop speaking, the world reveals more. When you quiet your mind, you start hearing the subtle details, in voices, in emotions, in the way life unfolds around you. You start realizing how much you've been missing, simply because you were too loud inside your own head. Observation gives you time to think before reacting. It allows wisdom to enter before words escape. It makes you deliberate, composed, intentional. The truth is, observation is not passive, it's active. It requires energy, awareness, and humility. It's choosing to be a student of life rather than a prisoner of your own assumption. Try this simple exercise. Tomorrow, when you wake up, take 1 full minute to look out the window, really see what's there. Notice the way the light falls on the ground, the sound of the morning air, the rhythm of the world beginning its day. That minute alone, practiced daily, will start to rewire how you think. You'll begin to slow down your perception, just enough to absorb life instead of racing through it. The more you observe, the more patterns you recognize, in behavior, in timing, in outcome. You start predicting what's likely to happen because you've seen it before in 1,000 small ways. And that's not luck, that's awareness refined through practice. Observation also nurtures creativity. When you pay attention, your mind starts combining ideas from different places. You might see a connection between a cloud and a thought, between a conversation and a dream, between failure and opportunity. That's how innovation begins, by noticing what others overlook. But here's the most beautiful part: observation deepens gratitude. When you truly see, you start to appreciate. You begin to feel awe for the little things, the way laughter echoes, the smell of rain, the quiet strength of someone trying again after failure. Observation turns ordinary days into sacred ones. Becoming smarter every day doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means seeing more. The smartest people aren't those who move the fastest, they're the ones who move with awareness, because they understand that every moment carries wisdom if you're willing to look closely enough. So let me ask you, when was the last time you paused long enough to really see your life? Not through the lens of habit or hurry, but through the quiet eyes of understanding. What truths have been waiting for you to notice? Remember this: your intelligence doesn't grow in noise, it grows in observation. Pay attention, and the world will start revealing secrets it hides from everyone else. Be curious, be silent, be awake, and you'll see wisdom unfolding all around you. Because the power to become smarter every day isn't about knowing more, it's about noticing more. And as we turn the page to the next chapter, we'll uncover how smart people transform what they notice into something greater: the habit of reflection. Because it's not enough to see, you must also understand. And once you learn to connect observation with insight, your growth will no longer have limits. Let's continue this journey into the quiet power of reflection. Chapter 5: The Habit of Reflection. Turning experience into wisdom. There's a quiet moment that arrives after every event, every choice, every day. It's the pause when the noise fades and the truth begins to speak. That's where reflection lives, in the stillness between what just happened and what comes next. Imagine this: you've climbed a mountain, your heart's still racing, your legs are trembling, and you're staring at the view from the top. The journey was hard, unpredictable, exhausting, but now, as you catch your breath, you realize something powerful. You didn't just reach the top, you became someone capable of reaching it. That awareness, that moment when experience turns into understanding, is the essence of reflection. Smart people don't just live, they learn from living. They don't rush from one moment to another. They pause long enough to extract wisdom from each experience. They understand that reflection is what transforms activity into growth, information into knowledge, and mistakes into mastery. You can read 1,000 books, listen to countless talks, collect endless advice, but none of it becomes your wisdom until you sit with it, think about it, and see what it means for you. That's the magic of reflection. It turns the noise of life into clarity. Reflection is the bridge between doing and understanding. Without it, even the smartest person can stay stuck in patterns, repeating the same mistakes under different names. But with reflection, every day becomes a teacher. Every failure, a guide. Every success, a mirror. Let's get honest. Most people avoid reflection because it feels uncomfortable. They don't want to face their mistakes, their regrets, or their inner contradictions. But avoiding reflection is like running from a mirror. It doesn't erase what's there, it only keeps you blind to it. The truth is, you can't change what you refuse to understand, and you can't understand what you never take the time to reflect on. Reflection isn't about overthinking. It's not about replaying your mistakes until you drown in regret. It's about awareness, calm, honest awareness. It's about asking simple but powerful questions. What did I learn from this? How did this shape me? What would I do differently next time? Those questions are the keys to growth, and the more you ask them, the sharper your mind becomes. Let's bring it down to something practical. At the end of each day, before you sleep, take 5 quiet minutes. Put your phone away. Turn off the world. Ask yourself, what went well today? What didn't? What did I learn about myself? That's it. No judgment, no pressure, just reflection. Over time, those 5 minutes will begin to change how you live. You'll start noticing your patterns, the habits that lift you, the ones that limit you. You'll start catching yourself before making the same mistake. You'll grow more intentional, more thoughtful, more self-aware. Smart people use reflection as a compass. It keeps them aligned with their purpose, reminding them where they've been and where they want to go. They understand that progress without reflection is motion without meaning, because it's not about how far you go, it's about how much you grow along the way. Think about every great thinker, philosopher, or leader. They all had one thing in common: time set aside for reflection. From journaling to meditation, from quiet walks to solitary moments, they all understood the power of stepping back to see the bigger picture. Because wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers in the silence after action. Reflection also builds emotional intelligence. It teaches you to see yourself clearly, your motives, your fears, your strengths. It helps you understand others too, because the more you understand your own emotions, the better you recognize them in someone else. It's empathy through awareness. Here's something you might not expect. Reflection makes you stronger. It gives you the courage to face your past, the patience to understand it, and the strength to grow from it. It teaches you that mistakes don't define you, they refine you. Every error becomes a stepping stone if you take the time to learn from it. The difference between someone who repeats their problems and someone who rises above them isn't intelligence, it's reflection. Because reflection turns pain into perspective, and perspective changes everything. Now, there's a subtle art to reflection, and it's this: don't rush to label your experiences as good or bad. Just observe them. Life is always teaching you something, even when it's teaching through difficulty. Sometimes, the lesson isn't visible right away. It unfolds slowly, like dawn after a long night. But if you keep reflecting, you'll start to see that nothing was wasted. Everything was shaping you, preparing you, refining your understanding of yourself and the world. When you develop the habit of reflection, you stop living reactively. You stop being thrown around by circumstance. You begin to live with awareness, choosing your actions, your words, and your direction with clarity. You become deliberate, and deliberate people build meaningful lives. So ask yourself now, when was the last time you paused long enough to really reflect on your own journey? To look at how far you've come, what you've learned, and how you've grown. Most people underestimate how much progress they've already made, simply because they never stop to look back. Reflection is how you honor your journey. It's how you acknowledge your growth, your endurance, your resilience. It's how you remind yourself that even on the hardest days, you are becoming wiser, stronger, and more capable. So tonight, before you rest, give yourself that moment. Not to judge, not to regret, but to understand. Because understanding is the birthplace of wisdom. And wisdom is what separates those who merely live from those who truly evolve. Every day offers lessons, but only those who reflect collect them. As we move to the next chapter, we'll take this awareness one step further, from reflection to refinement. Because smart people don't just understand their lessons, they apply them, they turn awareness into action. And that, my friend, is where true transformation begins. Let's continue into the art of applying what you learn. Chapter 6. The Discipline of Inner Stillness. There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise of the world becomes too loud to bear. The opinions, the chaos, the endless motion of modern life, all of it begins to press against your mind until it feels like you can't breathe. You scroll, you react, you chase, you compare, and yet something inside you whispers, this can't be it. That quiet voice within you, the one you often ignore, it's not weak, It's wisdom, and it's asking you to be still. Stillness is not laziness, it's not inaction, it's mastery, the ability to remain centered even as life spins around you. When you learn to be still within, you stop being tossed around by every opinion, every emotion, and every storm. You stop living as a reaction and start living as a response, because stillness is not about silence, it's about strength. Think of the ocean. On the surface, waves crash and roar, but deep below, the water remains calm and untouched. That's what stillness feels like. Calm beneath the surface, even when life gets rough above it. Most people live only on the surface of their mind, constantly reacting to every wave that hits them. But you are learning to go deeper, to dwell in that quiet depth where clarity lives, where peace breathes, and where wisdom speaks. When you practice stillness, you begin to see life differently. You start to notice how much of your energy was spent fighting things that didn't matter. You see how much of your time was wasted trying to control what could never be controlled, and you realize the world outside was never the real battle. It was always the storm within. Inner stillness is not something you wait for, it's something you create. You create it by letting go of the need to be right, letting go of the urge to prove yourself, letting go of every false identity you've worn just to feel enough. When you strip away the noise, what remains is truth. And truth does not shout, it whispers. There's a quiet power that comes when you stop reacting. When someone criticizes you and you don't need to defend yourself. When life disappoints you and you don't collapse into frustration. When things go wrong and you don't lose yourself in panic. That is stillness in motion. That is the unshakable center that cannot be taken from you. Stillness sharpens your mind. It makes your thoughts clearer, your choices wiser, your energy cleaner. You begin to act with intention instead of impulse. You begin to speak from understanding instead of emotion. And you begin to move through life like water, fluid, calm, and powerful. The truth is, your greatest strength is not how loudly you can fight, but how deeply you can remain grounded. Anyone can shout back, react, or panic. But the rare soul, the one who wins silently, is the one who pauses, breathes, and listens before responding. That pause is power. That breath is wisdom. That silence is discipline. Stillness also reveals what's been hiding inside you. When the noise fades, you start to hear the real you, the you that's been buried beneath distraction, fear, and expectation. You may not always like what you hear at first. Old wounds, regrets, doubts, they all surface. But that's part of the healing. Stillness doesn't just calm you, it confronts you. It brings up what needs to be seen, so it can finally be released. The world will try to convince you that peace comes from control, more money, more success, more validation. But real peace doesn't come from holding tighter. It comes from surrendering smarter. It comes from understanding that you don't have to chase everything to have something. You don't have to be everywhere to be fulfilled. You don't have to impress anyone to be enough. You only have to return to yourself. Each day, give yourself moments of stillness. Not just when life feels heavy, but even when it feels good. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what truly matters right now? The more you practice this, the stronger your inner calm becomes. And soon, that calm won't just be a place you visit, it'll be the place you live. Stillness transforms you from the inside out. It sharpens your awareness, strengthens your emotional control, and builds the kind of quiet confidence that doesn't depend on circumstances. People will notice it. They'll feel it when you walk into a room, that calm energy that says, I am here, I am grounded, and I am unshaken. That is the energy of someone who has mastered their inner world. And once you've mastered your inner world, the outer one can no longer control you. Stillness gives you power, not over others, but over yourself. And that, my friend, is the highest form of freedom. So when life gets loud, when everyone around you is rushing, shouting or competing, choose silence. When things fall apart, choose stillness. When you don't know what to do, stop, breathe and listen. Because in that sacred pause, you will always find your next step. And that next step, it's what leads you to a life of peace, clarity and purpose. A life not defined by chaos, but by calm command, not by reaction, but by response, not by fear, but by focus. Stillness is not the end of movement, it's the mastery of it. It's the space between what was and what's about to be. It's the power that allows you to act with intention instead of emotion. And it's the quiet reminder that you were never lost, you were just too noisy to hear yourself. As we move into the next chapter, we'll explore how to turn that inner stillness into decisive action. Because true peace isn't found by sitting still forever, it's found by learning how to move with calm clarity through every challenge life gives you. The storm outside may continue, but now you'll know where to stand, in the calm within. Chapter 7. The Power of Decisive Action. There's a moment that separates dreamers from doers, and it's not talent, luck, or timing. It's the moment you decide, that single breath between thinking and doing. That heartbeat where hesitation either steals your future or action transforms it. Most people wait for clarity before they move. They wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect feeling. But here's the truth. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. You cannot think your way into change. You must move your way into it. Every breakthrough begins with a decision. Not a wish, not a someday, not a maybe. A decision backed by movement. A decision that says, I may not have all the answers, but I'm done standing still. Action is what separates the people who evolve from the people who only imagine. And the reason so many never reach their next level isn't because they didn't know what to do, it's because they didn't do what they knew. Think about it. How many times have you known what needed to be done, but you waited? You told yourself you'd start tomorrow. You convinced yourself you needed more preparation, more courage, more signs. But time doesn't wait for readiness, it rewards action. The universe responds to movement. When you move, doors open. When you commit, opportunities appear. When you take one step, the next one reveals itself. But if you stay frozen in doubt, life passes by in quiet frustration. You end up watching from the sidelines as your potential gathers dust. Decisive action is not about recklessness, it's about faith. It's the belief that progress comes through motion, not perfection, that mistakes are not the enemy. Stagnation is. Because even when you move in the wrong direction, you learn, you adapt, and you grow stronger. But when you do nothing, nothing changes. Action is how you send a signal to life, a message that says, I'm ready, and life listens to the energy you give it. It rewards courage, not comfort. It meets you halfway, but only after you've taken the first step. You don't need to see the entire staircase, you just need to take the next step that's in front of you. That's how momentum is born. Not from huge leaps, but from consistent steps that build unstoppable force. Each action, no matter how small, becomes proof to your mind that you are no longer waiting, you are becoming. Action transforms your identity. When you act, you shift your self-image from someone who hopes to someone who does, and that shift is everything. It's the difference between living in potential and living in power. Let's be honest. Fear doesn't disappear just because you're ready to move. Fear walks with you. It whispers doubts, paints worst-case scenarios, and tempts you back into comfort. But courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is walking forward with fear still in your pocket. Courage says, you can come along but you don't get to drive. And once you begin to move through fear instead of away from it, something incredible happens. Fear starts losing its grip. Each step forward silences its voice a little more. Each act of courage reminds you of who you really are: capable, resilient, unstoppable. Action is also how you build self-trust. Every time you follow through on what you said you'd do, your mind begins to believe you again. You stop negotiating with yourself, you stop breaking promises to your future, and that trust becomes power, the quiet kind of confidence that doesn't need to prove itself because it's already proven in motion. Remember this: clarity follows movement, not the other way around. You won't always feel ready, but readiness grows through action. You won't always feel confident, but confidence builds through repetition. You won't always feel certain, but certainty strengthens every time you choose to begin anyway. The greatest trap of the human mind is overthinking. We analyze, hesitate, and loop inside our own thoughts until opportunity slips through our fingers. You don't need more time to think, you need more courage to act, because no amount of thinking can replace the wisdom you gain through doing. Decisive action doesn't always look loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as a phone call you've been avoiding, a small step toward a dream that scares you, a boundary you finally enforce, or a habit you commit to starting today, not tomorrow. It's not the size of the step that changes your life, it's the fact that you took it. Every major transformation begins with one small moment of boldness, one conversation, one choice, one step forward, and then another, and another. That's how change is built. Quietly, steadily, one decision at a time. So if you've been waiting for the perfect sign, this is it. The moment you've been preparing for is not in the future. It's now, because the longer you wait, the further you drift from the life you were meant to live. Every day you hesitate is a day you delay your growth, your success, your peace. But the moment you act, truly act, the energy shifts, the weight lifts, the fog clears, and life starts to move with you instead of against you. Momentum is magic. It doesn't ask for perfection, only participation. So start, even if it's messy, even if you're scared, even if you don't know what comes next, because progress is born in motion, not in waiting. Decisive action is the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to be. It's not about rushing, it's about trusting. Trusting that your path will reveal itself as you move. Trusting that every step, even the uncertain ones, will carry you closer to your purpose. And trusting that you have always had what it takes, you just needed to move to remember it. So as we turn the page into the next chapter, remember this: stillness gave you clarity, but action will give you transformation. You've learned how to calm your mind, now it's time to command your movement, because your future doesn't wait, it begins the moment you do. The next chapter will reveal how to stay consistent once you begin, how to turn fleeting motivation into unshakable discipline. Because the power to act is one thing, but the power to keep acting, that's what creates lasting change. Chapter 8. The discipline to stay consistent. Momentum begins with a spark, but it's discipline that keeps the fire alive. Anyone can start strong. Few stay steady, because beginnings are exciting. They feel powerful, fresh, and full of hope. But consistency, that's built in the quiet, unglamorous moments, the days when motivation disappears, and the only thing left is your decision to keep showing up. Discipline is not a punishment, it's a declaration, a statement that says, I'm no longer controlled by how I feel, I'm guided by what I've decided. That's the difference between people who build something meaningful and those who only chase short bursts of excitement. Think about the rhythm of a heartbeat, steady, dependable, unshaken. That's what true consistency feels like. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it sustains life. Your goals, your dreams, your transformation, they all depend on that same kind of rhythm. Discipline is doing what matters, long after the mood to do it has left, because feelings are temporary, but outcomes are not. When you live by discipline, you stop needing to feel ready. You act because it's who you are now. The truth is, consistency is not about working harder. It's about working smarter and longer than your excuses. It's about building systems that support your future instead of habits that sabotage it. It's about removing the need to decide every single day, because you've already made the decision once, and now you simply honor it. Discipline is how you protect your energy from the constant noise of distraction. In a world that glorifies comfort and convenience, staying consistent is a quiet act of rebellion. Every time you show up when it's inconvenient, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses, and that self-respect, that inner pride, becomes its own reward. But here's the part most people miss. Discipline doesn't have to be harsh. It's not about forcing yourself through misery. It's about alignment, making sure your daily actions match your deeper purpose. When you understand why you're doing something, the discipline to keep going comes naturally. Purpose gives power to persistence. Every person who has achieved something extraordinary has faced the same battles you do: exhaustion, doubt, boredom, and temptation. The difference is, they didn't let those moments define them. They didn't wait for perfect energy, perfect mood, or perfect timing. They simply decided that consistency was non-negotiable. Discipline is not about intensity. It's about endurance. It's easy to push hard for a few days. It's harder to move forward one small step at a time, every single day. But that's what builds real strength. It's not the weight of one massive effort that changes you. It's the repetition of small efforts that never stop. Think of a mountain. You don't climb it in one great leap. You climb it through small, steady steps that add up over time. Each day's progress may look insignificant, but consistency compounds. Miss one day, and nothing happens. Miss 10 days, and momentum dies. Stay consistent for 100 days, and your entire life begins to shift. And here's something powerful. Discipline doesn't only build results, it builds identity. Every time you follow through, your mind rewires itself. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Your self-image strengthens. Your inner voice changes from "I hope I can" to "I always do." That's how lasting transformation begins, not through willpower alone, but through a new identity built on repeated action. There will be days when progress feels invisible, days when your effort doesn't show any immediate reward. But don't let the lack of visible results fool you. Consistency is invisible before it becomes undeniable. Seeds grow underground long before they break through the soil. Your work is no different. Trust the unseen progress. The roots of greatness grow quietly. And remember, discipline and flexibility are not enemies. Being consistent doesn't mean you never rest. It means you never quit. You adjust, you recover, you breathe, but you always return. That's what real consistency looks like. Not perfection, but persistence. So when the voice of comfort tries to whisper, "Take it easy, skip it today," answer with this truth. Rest is a tool, not an escape. You rest so you can rise again, not so you can retreat. If you ever feel like giving up, remind yourself why you started. Visualize the version of yourself you're building. Every act of discipline is a brick in that foundation. And one day, you'll look back and realize every small effort, every quiet decision, every ordinary day stacked together into something extraordinary. Consistency also teaches patience, because discipline is not instant gratification, it's delayed greatness. It's learning to fall in love with the process, rather than the outcome. The process shapes you, the process strengthens you, the process becomes the reward. And when you finally reach your result, you won't just have the success, you'll have the strength to sustain it. So let this truth settle deeply. You do not rise by intensity, you rise by consistency. The difference between average and exceptional isn't luck, it's repetition. It's the decision to show up one more time, even when no one is watching. Because the quiet work no one sees is always the foundation of the loud success everyone notices later. Let your discipline become your freedom. When you no longer need to fight with yourself to do what's right, you liberate your mind from internal conflict. You move with peace, not pressure. You act from identity, not impulse. And that's when consistency stops feeling like effort. It starts feeling like flow. So wherever you are in your journey right now, remember, your growth is not built in grand gestures, but in your daily devotion. Keep showing up. Keep honoring your word, because every consistent day is one step closer to becoming the person you promised yourself you'd be. As we move into the next chapter, we'll go deeper into the art of resilience. How to stay strong when life challenges your discipline, tests your faith, and tries to pull you back into your old patterns. Because consistency creates progress, but resilience ensures that progress never fades. Chapter 9. Protect your energy. Protect your peace. There's a reason you feel drained after certain conversations. There's a reason your mood shifts after being around certain people. And there's a reason some days feel heavier, even when nothing obvious has gone wrong. It's not always what you're doing, it's what you're allowing. Your energy is your life force. It's the invisible current that fuels your focus, your creativity, and your peace of mind. When that energy is protected, you move through the world with strength and clarity. But when it's constantly leaking through negativity, drama, or emotional clutter, even the simplest tasks can feel impossible. You've probably noticed this in your own life. Maybe there's someone who always finds a way to pull you into their chaos, the friend who complains endlessly, the colleague who gossips, or the relative who always has a problem but never a solution. Every time you listen, engage, or react, a little of your energy drains away, not because you're weak, but because you're human. Protecting your energy isn't about building walls or cutting people off coldly. It's about learning discernment, knowing when to open your heart and when to step back. It's about realizing that not every conversation deserves a reply, not every situation needs your involvement, and not every battle is meant for you to fight. Think of your energy like a bank account. Every thought, every reaction, every emotional response is a transaction. When you spend wisely on growth, on gratitude, on purpose, your balance grows. But when you overspend on stress, overthinking, or toxic interactions, you end up emotionally bankrupt. The most peaceful people in the world aren't those who have fewer problems. They're those who've learned how to spend their energy wisely. There's a quiet power that comes from protecting your peace. It's not loud, it's not aggressive, it's calm, firm, and deeply self-respecting. It sounds like saying no when something doesn't align. It feels like walking away from chaos without the need to prove your point. It looks like choosing silence instead of engaging in arguments that lead nowhere. Peace isn't passive, it's strength under control. It's the ability to remain centered while the world around you tries to pull you off balance. And to live from that place, you must learn to guard your inner space like sacred ground. Ask yourself, who and what gets access to my attention? Because your attention is energy. Every time you replay a negative comment in your mind, you're feeding it energy. Every time you dwell on what someone else said or did, you're letting them live rent-free in your mental space. Your peace deserves better tenants. Start filtering what you allow in. You can't control everything that enters your life, but you can control what stays. You can decide that gossip dies when it reaches your ears. You can decide that negativity stops when it hits your boundary. You can decide that no matter how loud the world gets, your inner voice remains steady and calm. When you start protecting your energy, people will notice. Some will respect it, others will resist it. Not everyone will understand the version of you that refuses to be drained anymore, and that's okay. You're not here to please everyone, you're here to preserve your purpose. Peace often requires solitude, not loneliness, but intentional solitude. Time spent alone isn't isolation, it's restoration. It's where you reset, realign, and remember who you are when the world goes quiet. Because sometimes you have to step away from the noise to hear your own thoughts clearly again. And in that quiet, you'll realize something powerful. You are not obligated to attend every emotional storm you're invited to. You can love people and still choose peace. You can care deeply and still say no. You can be kind without being available to everything and everyone. Protecting your energy is self-respect in action. It's you saying, my peace matters, my mind matters, my growth matters, and the more you honor that, the more aligned your life becomes. You start attracting calmer people, healthier opportunities, and moments that actually feed your spirit instead of depleting it. Remember, your energy sets the tone for everything you experience. If you carry peace, you attract peace. If you move with gratitude, you attract more to be grateful for. If you keep your inner world clean, your outer world begins to reflect that clarity. It's not magic, it's alignment. So today, make a silent promise to yourself. You will no longer allow your energy to be taken for granted. You will no longer trade your peace for acceptance. You will no longer confuse being available with being valuable. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to choose calm over chaos, clarity over confusion, and peace over approval. That choice doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. Because true growth doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing what matters most without losing yourself in the process. And when you finally learn to protect your energy, you'll discover something extraordinary. Peace was never missing. It was just buried beneath everything that didn't belong. Take a deep breath and let that truth set. This is where calm begins, not in changing the world around you, but in mastering the one within. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop reacting to life, and you start responding to it with intention. You stop fighting for control, and you start living from alignment. You stop chasing peace, because you've become it. This is the quiet power of protecting your energy. It's the foundation for the next step, learning how to build a life that sustains your peace, not drains it. Let's explore that next. Chapter 10. The Habit of Lifelong Learning. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean, stretching beyond the horizon. The waves whisper secrets of discovery, each ripple carrying a lesson, a possibility, an insight waiting for you. Now imagine turning away from that ocean, content to stay on the shore, thinking you've already learned enough. You might survive, you might even feel safe, but you will never truly thrive. The mind, like the ocean, is limitless, and the final habit of truly smart people is not wealth, talent, or connections. It is the relentless pursuit of knowledge, the unshakable habit of lifelong learning. Learning isn't confined to classrooms, books, or diplomas. It's an active, living process. It's the choice to see the world as your teacher, to treat every experience as a lesson, and to allow curiosity to guide you through life. Consider the people you admire most. Notice how they never stop asking questions. Notice how they read, listen, observe, and experiment long after most people settle into complacency. They understand something profound. Intelligence isn't static. It grows when fed with curiosity, reflection, and the courage to explore what you don't yet know. Lifelong learning begins with humility, the quiet understanding that no matter how much you know, there is always more. It's the willingness to admit, I don't have all the answers, and to chase the answers anyway. That humility doesn't diminish your intelligence, it amplifies it. It keeps the mind sharp, open, and eager for growth. This habit also requires courage, Learning often pushes you into uncomfortable territory. It challenges assumptions, confronts biases, and forces you to reconsider long-held beliefs. It asks you to step into the unknown, to risk being wrong, and to embrace failure as a teacher rather than a verdict. Smart people don't fear mistakes. They welcome them as signposts along the path of mastery. Reading, observing, and listening are the fuel for lifelong learning, but reflection is the engine. Without reflection, knowledge remains scattered fragments. With reflection, every insight becomes wisdom. Ask yourself, what did I learn today that I didn't know yesterday? How can I apply it? How does it change the way I see the world? Curiosity is the heartbeat of learning. It whispers questions in moments of stillness. Why? What if? How can I improve? And each question opens a door to new understanding, to new possibilities, to new ways of thinking. Smart people don't wait for answers to come to them. They chase them relentlessly, guided by an insatiable curiosity. But learning is more than information acquisition. It's a lifestyle, a mindset, a rhythm. It's showing up every day with the intent to grow, to deepen, to expand. It's taking risks, making mistakes, and letting each experience shape your mind in ways no book or course ever could. One of the greatest truths about lifelong learning is this: the moment you stop learning, you start declining, not just intellectually, but emotionally, creatively, and even spiritually. Growth is life, and learning is growth. To refuse learning is to refuse life in its fullest expression. Smart people understand the compounding effect of knowledge. One insight today builds a foundation for 10 discoveries tomorrow. Every skill you acquire, every perspective you embrace, every lesson you internalize becomes a tool in your toolkit for life. Knowledge multiplies, wisdom deepens, and your capacity to navigate challenges expands beyond measure. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of lifelong learning is its ripple effect. The more you learn, the more you inspire others to learn. Your curiosity becomes contagious, your insight becomes guidance, and your growth becomes a beacon. You don't just change yourself, you elevate everyone around you simply by living the habit of learning. And here's a vital secret: lifelong learning is not about achieving perfection. It's about embracing imperfection as the engine of progress. It's about knowing you'll never know everything, but committing to know more than you did yesterday. It's about walking every day with the quiet determination to become just a little better, a little wiser, a little more alive. So take a moment and reflect. What have you learned today? What have you observed, questioned, or discovered that shifts your understanding? Because the journey doesn't end here, it never ends. This habit, like the ocean, has no finish line. You will continue to explore, to grow, to stretch, and to evolve. And each day, each lesson, each insight adds depth to the mind, clarity to the vision, and strength to the spirit. Remember, intelligence is not a destination. It is a journey, a practice, a lifelong devotion to curiosity and growth. Every habit we've explored in this audiobook, from reading to reflection, discipline to resilience, energy protection to consistent effort, all converge in this final habit, the unending pursuit of knowledge. Carry it with you like a lantern in the dark. Let curiosity light your path. Let learning shape your identity. Let wisdom guide your choices, because the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. And the moment you commit to learning every day for the rest of your life is the moment you unlock the truest version of yourself. This is the habit that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. It is the key to mental strength, emotional depth, and personal mastery. And it is the final step in the journey we've taken together. Stand at the edge of your own ocean of possibilities. Dive in, explore, question, reflect, grow. Your mind is limitless, your capacity immeasurable, and your potential infinite. Let this be the chapter that reminds you the pursuit of wisdom is a lifelong adventure, and with each day you commit to learning, you are becoming smarter, stronger, and more fully alive. Your journey doesn't end here. It continues with every thought, every question, every lesson you choose to embrace, and the life you've been imagining all along is waiting, just beyond the horizon of your curiosity.